Hey, what's up guys? It's Clinton Davis. How are you doing today? So I wanted to talk about Colin Kaepernick's protest today, and I just wanted to cover the way people are talking about it because the comments range from stuff like this.
Police are not targeting African Americans. And while there are exceptions to that, of course, American law enforcement in general deserves respect. They protect us. I'm a bit confused. Sincerity should be based on behavior and knowledge, right? Mr. Kaepernick's behavior regarding the police is disgraceful. The Sox prove that. And believe me, if Colin Kaepernick were on this program, The Factor, right now, he'd be sacked within seconds because his knowledge of current events is sadly lacking.
To downright batshit crazy stuff like this.
Colin Kaepernick is representing the San Francisco 49ers when he puts on that uniform, when he steps out on the stage, the world stage. He's taken advantage of that, and he's undermining patriotism. I understand that he has an Islamic girlfriend that is his fiance, and that this has changed him. He's taken on some different political views along the way. This is activism that's sympathetic to ISIS.
And the level of enragement that I can only receive from Tomi Lahren.
Kaepernick, I've got some final thoughts for you, bud. See, our buddy Colin decided not to stand for the national anthem because, well, he will not stand to show pride in a flag or a country that oppresses black people. For him, it's bigger than football. He would be selfish to look the other way. After all, according to Kaepernick, there are bodies in the street and people getting paid leave and getting away with murder. So let me go ahead and eviscerate this mouth diarrhea for you sentence by sentence. Here we go. Colin, I support the First Amendment. I support your right to freedom of speech and expression. Go for it, bud. It's this country, the country that you have so much disdain for, that allows you the right to speak your mind. It protects your right to be a whiny, indulgent, attention-seeking crybaby. It also protects my right to shred you for it. See, the national anthem and our flag, they are not symbols of black America, white America, brown America, or purple America for that matter. There are patriots of every race that have fought and died for this country, and we honor the flag and sing the anthem as a reminder. And Colin, if this country disgusts you so much, leave.
And Tomi Lahren basically reaches a new low by saying that these things don't happen, that racial injustice is not a thing. It's basically what she's insinuating. So she's not only invalidating his method of protest, she's also saying that the thing he's protesting doesn't happen, which, Tomi Lahren, not to mention her repeatedly calling him bud, seems a little bit racially charged. But let's not focus entirely on her. Let's do the rest of the video on the general idea of the people criticizing the protests. But at least he's got Steph Curry defending him.
That's not the way that I'll do it, but I support him in his attempt to start the conversation or continue the conversation or try to better a terrible situation. That's what I commend him for, his act, but I would do it a different way.
Personally, I fall into the same category as Steph Curry does. First and last time I'll ever get to say that. I think there are much better ways that he could have protested this, instead of just sitting out a game, something like that, because I just think there are much better ways he could have protested this, such as sitting out a game, something like that, and I just feel like because the protest is sitting out in the national anthem, the best thing that can come out of the protest, you see, is people who normally don't pay attention to the racial injustices in America now paying attention to them because an athlete that they like is telling them to pay attention to them. But then there's a huge intercept in the demographic of people who don't pay enough attention to Black Lives Matter, who should, and also the group of people who blindly support their country without ever questioning what it does. So I think a huge market of the people who could be reached by this method of protest are not being reached because they're just shutting it off immediately. That being said, do I think that this protest does do more good than harm? Yes. I think these are really big issues that we need to shine light on, and while I have been paying a lot of attention to them, and most of my friends have been paying a lot of attention to them, there is a huge portion of America that isn't paying attention to these issues. And I think this is, well, not a great way, but a good way to bring attention to these issues to people who normally wouldn't be paying attention to them. Also, what we have to realize is that veterans don't fight for our right to not do what we want. Do you know what I'm saying? If you ever see one of the conservative commentators talking about this and how it's disrespectful to veterans, according to them. They always say that veterans fight for our freedom. But to me, it seems like choosing whether to sit or stand during the national anthem seems more like a freedom than a non-freedom. But I don't know, that's just me. When you have these things happening to black people in this country, we need to bring light to it, because some people just want to shut it off. They don't want to learn that things are happening that don't affect them. If you're not affected by the things that are happening to black people because you're white or you're Asian or whatever, you are very likely to just shut it off and assume it doesn't happen. Right here I'm looking at killedbypolice.net, and this is a website where they collect local newspaper articles of people who were shot by the police. And there is hardly a day on here where there aren't multiple people shot, and it doesn't skip a day. Every single day for the past year, someone has been shot. And this is from the Washington Post. According to the most recent census data, there are nearly 160 million more white people in America than there are black people. White people make up roughly 62% of the U.S. population, but only 49% of those who are killed by police officers. African Americans, however, account for 24% of those fatally shot and killed by the police, despite being just 13% of the U.S. population. As the Post noted in a new analysis published last week, that means black Americans are 2.5 times as likely as white Americans to be shot and killed by a police officer. Now, you can't really deny those facts, can you? So therefore, we have to acknowledge that Colin Kaepernick is raising awareness to a really important issue, which might be why many of his fellow athletes in the NFL, many of them are black and have seen these things firsthand, who are joining him in this protest. Of course, like the clip I showed earlier with Steve King, there are a lot of conservatives who are making the connection that because he has a Muslim girlfriend, even though he himself is not Muslim, or even though that doesn't fucking matter, she's not a fucking terrorist, they're linking him to ISIS. And I honestly don't think that they believe that. I think they're trying to appeal to their voter base of really uninformed voters and scare them into thinking that Colin Kaepernick, a guy who chose to just, sit down, is a fucking terrorist. I also want to point out that protesting is one of the most American things you can do. This country was literally founded on a protest. When the founding fathers didn't like the way that Great Britain was ruling over them, they built their own country. Isn't that a dope-ass protest? So for anyone to claim that this protest is un-American clearly doesn't realize that. This country was founded on a protest. Protesting is the most American thing you can do, regardless of your method of protest. And of course, it's really weird that people's love for their country is getting in the way of them understanding that these are important issues that Colin Kaepernick is raising awareness to. People want to shut off these stories that they hear about people being killed by the police, but the reality is these are real issues. These are real things going on, and for us to just ignore them because we don't like the fact that Colin Kaepernick didn't stand for the national anthem is insane. I will never understand what it's like to be a black person. I wasn't born black. I don't have to deal with it. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't be sympathetic to people who do have to go through that. In the same sense, I'll never know what it's like to be a transgender person. I was born a male and I'm happy with being a male. But does that mean that I should just go, oh, well, you should just shut the fuck up and deal with it? Deal with your gender that you were born with? No, it doesn't mean that. We shouldn't not listen to people's struggles just because we don't know what it's like to be them. And we also shouldn't not listen to people's struggles because we don't like the way that they're talking about those struggles. That being said, this is human instinct. If I was criticizing you and I said something like, you're a fucking idiot if you actually believe that, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You probably wouldn't want to listen to what I said after that, would you? But also, if in the same argument I said, I disagree with you, but here's why. Here's why, and I gave you a reasonable explanation. That is a much more respectful discussion, and we're much more likely to get to an endpoint where we might agree on something. You can disagree with Colin Kaepernick's protest. You can disagree with it all you want. But to suggest that he's connected to ISIS, or that because he is very wealthy and he has a decent amount of money, that he can't talk about the things that affect other African Americans in the community who are less fortunate than him. Blocks out any chance for a reasonable discussion. And I know a lot of people who disagree with him are being very reasonable about it and just saying, I understand what you're going through, but this isn't the right way to do it. And that's perfectly acceptable. That's what we should be doing. Reasonable discussions are what we should be having, and we should be talking to each other about our problems instead of just saying, I don't like the way that you talked about that, so I'm not going to listen to you. Do I personally agree with his method of protest? No. I love living in America. I couldn't imagine living in any other country. With all the freedoms that I have here, I can't imagine being anywhere else where those freedoms would be stripped from me. That being said, that doesn't mean I don't think Colin Kaepernick is raising awareness to important issues that need to be talked about. Even for people who disagree and think that black people aren't being treated unfairly by the police, you've got to understand that saying things like that he's connected to ISIS or that he should just leave this country if he doesn't like it, those things are not acceptable. So that's all I have to say in this video. If you like this video, please like it. If you like it so much that you want to see more like it, please subscribe. And if you feel like you have something you can add to the conversation, please comment down below. And if you want to leave a mean comment about how you're going to murder me, well, please utilize the comment section in that respect. And of course, as always, if you're still watching this video, I love you more than my emotionally detached personality will allow me to express, and that frustrates me deeply. Also, I really just want to point out that I usually don't like to take clips out of context. I like showing at least the majority of a clip. But I really wanted to get multiple perspectives on this, from the crazy to the really, really, really crazy. And I just didn't have time to keep all the full clips in there. But luckily for you, I will be linking all of the 2 articles that I used and the 3 clips that I used in the description box. So if you really want to see some full-blown crazy, go ahead and click on that when you're done with the video.